When you're hungry and thinking about a morning snack, what do you think about? Donuts? Cinnamon roll? Mighty tempting. But if you're looking for a boost of energy, you can't go wrong with fresh fruit. Apples and oranges and tangerine. And perhaps you might consider some fresh figs. Today we're going to be looking at Jesus and the cursing of the fig tree. The story is told in the Gospel of Matthew and the Gospel of Mark. Mark tells us it was on a Monday morning. It was the next day, the day after the triumphal entry, and Jesus and his disciples left Bethany on their way to Jerusalem. Now Bethany is where they stayed each evening. Mark got you started thinking like that in chapter 11 when he told the story of the triumphal entry. Jesus left Bethany and he went to Jerusalem. By the time he arrived at the temple, it says it was already late. He turned around and he went back to Bethany to spend the evening. And this will be the pattern throughout the week. You see, Bethany was safe and friendly. Now, friendly because he's got so many friends there, like Lazarus, Mary and Martha, Simon the leper who hosted a dinner party on Saturday evening, plus other disciples. And safe because it's away from the Jewish leaders there in Jerusalem. Now, it's about a 2-mile walk. Not a bad stretch for men to get up in the morning and take a walk to Jerusalem, come back in the evening. On this Monday morning, as they're walking, we're told Jesus became hungry. Raises the question for me, did his host forget to offer him breakfast? I doubt that. They seem to take good care of Jesus when they have the opportunity. I suspect it could be that he was on the move. He said, we're going to skip breakfast because we've got a lot to do. Or maybe he did eat breakfast. But in the walking to Jerusalem, he worked up a little bit of a hunger and said, I could use a snack. A lot of us can identify with that. Whatever the case may be, a discussion generated where we're going to find something. Of course, somebody pointed ahead to a fig tree and said, let's get some fresh figs. Now, if that sounds wrong to be taking somebody else's property, their figs, actually Moses allowed for that in the law of Moses. He wrote gleaning laws. In the gleaning laws, farmers were told to leave a strip of their property near the roadway for the poor and the needy to come get food, for travelers to also use it as well. And you'll find that Jesus and his disciples do this in the Gospels. They're traveling along. They go to the strip there at the edge of the field and they get some wheat, some grain, or some fruit. That's a little snack that keeps them moving as they head to their destination. It's part of the gleaning laws. Now Matthew says in chapter 21 that the tree that they spotted was by the road. In other words, it's there where the gleaning laws allow you to take figs. But now you got to find the figs, and so it says they got to the tree and they looked, and they found nothing but leaves. There's no figs. Well, what went wrong? Now Mark says in chapter 11, well, it wasn't the season for figs, which raises the question, why are you even looking if it's not fig season? Now my guess is it wasn't dead of winter. Nobody would be looking when there's not even a chance for there to be fruit. So it's either right at the beginning of the fig season and you're looking for some early figs that might have already started to come out, or maybe it's at the tail end of the fig season and you're looking for any remnants that might remain. I think it's got to be one of those two, else they wouldn't have looked at all. The leaves suggest the possibility there might be some figs there. Only way you'll know, you got to walk up there and take a look. And this is where Jesus then cursed the fig tree. Jesus said, may no one ever eat fruit from you again. Now, if you're thinking somebody's got up on the wrong side of the bed, I don't think this is a reaction of frustration or anger. I think Jesus saw an opportunity for another teaching lesson with his disciples, an opportunity to use an object lesson with them. Now, if you know Jesus and his teaching style, he does this all the time throughout the Gospels. As they're walking along from village to village, he could look around and if he spotted something, he could point to that and say, a sower went out to sow seed, and they could all turn and watch this guy sowing seed, and then Jesus tell a story and give a spiritual lesson from an object lesson that's right there in their view. I think that's what happened on this occasion. Here is an object lesson in their view. I believe all eyes are on this fig tree. We're told in Mark 11, they spotted it from a distance. And if I were to recreate the story, I can well imagine that Jesus may have mentioned he was feeling a little hungry. I expect 3 or 4 others joined in and said, yeah, me too. And as they're thinking about what to do, looking up ahead, they see a fig tree. They say, well, it's got leaves. Maybe there's some figs there. Let's go check it out. Well, they walked over, checked it out. Now, it wouldn't take all of them. It wouldn't even take Jesus. I would be surprised if some of those disciples, they jump ahead to grab figs for him and bring figs to him. But it doesn't matter who did the looking. The time they got done looking, they said, nope, can't find any figs. They're ready to move on. Not Jesus. He cursed the fig tree. Now, I think what he's doing is using this fig tree to teach a lesson about hypocrisy. You know what hypocrisy is? That's where you pretend to be better than what you really are. Oh, you put on a show, you put on a front. But if people could look at the real you, take a close look under the leaves, they'd find that you don't really have what you claim to have. I think he used this fig tree to teach a lesson about hypocrisy. And why teach that lesson on this occasion? Because this is going to set the stage for Jesus' confrontation with the Jewish leaders over the next 2 days, Monday and Tuesday. You see, on Monday, the cleansing of the temple, and he is indicting those Jewish leaders who are the caretakers of God's holy house, but they've not kept it holy. On Tuesday, he'll be in the temple, and he'll be teaching, and as he teaches, he'll directly look at those leaders, and he'll say, woe to you, you hypocrites, because of all the things that you do. You see, he's about to teach some strong lessons with words about hypocrisy. I think he taught his disciples a lesson on hypocrisy with this fig tree. Now, here's what happened. It was on Monday that Jesus said, you're cursed, you'll never bear fruit again. And chapter 11 of Mark says, and the disciples were listening. That is, they heard his words, but they're looking at the tree and, well, nothing changed. Nothing happened. They walked away a little bit mystified. Well, until the next morning, on Tuesday morning, as they're leaving Bethany and walking to Jerusalem, and they passed by that fig tree, and it showed signs that it was withering from the roots up. You see what had happened? A miracle had happened on that Monday. He had cursed the fig tree, and it died right there then. It was an immediate effect. That's how all of Jesus' miracles work. They always had an immediate impact, but it wouldn't be evident, at least not until the withering came from the roots up above the ground. 24 hours later, you could look at the base of the tree and now see the tree is dying. Well, it's dying because Jesus cursed it the day before. Now, when Matthew tells the story, he compresses the beginning and ending of the story into one telling, because he basically just wants to go ahead and finish the story he started. Jesus cursed it, and they said, wow, look at that thing dying. It actually was split over a 24-hour period. Now, can he do that? Of course he can. Listen, there's no one way to tell a story. You can tell it many ways. In fact, if someone were to ask you, what'd you do today? You got all types of options. Tell it in chronological order, skip around and pull out the high points and the lesser points. You can do whatever you want. Matthew and Mark tell the story differently, but it's the same story. Now, in this story, it's Peter in Mark chapter 11 who says, Rabbi, look at that. That fig tree that you cursed has withered. He expresses amazement and surprise. And here's another teaching opportunity for Jesus. Why are you surprised, Peter? Come on now, you heard me curse the fig tree. Didn't you expect it to be cursed even if you couldn't see it? And thus Jesus said to Peter and the rest of the disciples, have faith in God. Because I tell you that if you were to say to a mountain, I want you to jump up and cast yourself in the sea, and if you say that without doubt in your heart, but you believe that what you say is going to happen, then it'll be granted to you. And thus Jesus teaches another lesson, this time on faith and prayer. When you pray, you need to have the faith that what you pray for can happen and will happen, and great things can happen when we pray with faith. Jesus goes on to say in Mark 11, I tell you this, all the things you pray and ask for, if you believe that you've received them, they'll be granted to you. Now, don't get ahead of me on this. Keep in mind that God is not some kind of magic genie who is obligated to give us anything we want. The conditions for prayer are more than just this one thing, that you've got to have faith. There are other conditions as well for prayer requests, such as one of the big ones, not my will, but your will be done, as Jesus taught us in his own prayer. Yeah, there's a lot of ways that you have to think about prayer requests before you get your prayer request. But I'll tell you, there's no more essential element than this one thing. If you're going to ask God to do something, you've got to have faith. Faith in God's power, that He can do it. Faith in His goodness, that He does such good things. And faith in God's interest in us, that He cares about us and is eager to do the good things we ask for. And so we want to remember this lesson from the cursing of the fig tree and from the lesson on prayer, and that is this. Just as fruit can give a burst of energy to your body, faith can give a burst of energy to your prayers.